So do your kids like draw names?
I'd like to welcome you to our December school board meeting and call this meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
A motion to approve?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. If you're able, please stand for the pledge led by Mrs. Schultz and the invocation will be given by Mrs. Boyer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here today as a governing board, and we're thankful for all that are present here and watching on TV. We're grateful for all that we have and the blessings that we receive, and we ask you to please be with us as we conduct business on behalf of the district and the students of Shoals School District. We're grateful for this time of year and for the season and the Christmas season. We ask you to help us to be kind to our fellow man and to help those less fortunate than us. And we're grateful for all that we have. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Madam President, just for note, Mr. Larson is on the call here and his audio is not working, so he will chat and I can communicate on his behalf or whatever.
That's good.
Can you use a John voice when you're speaking for him?
I'm not speaking for him. I will speak on behalf.
Okay. Item 3.2, Superintendent Report. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you. Just a couple of real quick reports. Fall sports are over. There was a lot of accolades with football and volleyball. We're really excited for those both of those teams, and they're continuing to see those awards come out. Basketball is going really well. Our boys won 2 games today. They're now 7-0, so that's really exciting. They're playing in Round Valley, so they'll play 2 more games tomorrow in that tournament. That's up and going. We participated as a school as far as we could with our facilities and other things with the community fast. The generosity of our community in that effort will be beneficial to our students. So we have families and students that will benefit from that. I believe, I don't remember the last total. Mrs. Clark might be able to give it to me, but it was over $62,000 this year, which is phenomenal. Just real quick late news, the junior high wrestling team took first in the White Mountain League today. And they set a new school record for points in a White Mountain League tournament at 295.5. So previously it was 290. That's awesome. Exciting. So we also have our robotics team that would like to come up and share with the board a little presentation. And as they're coming up, you guys can come on up and then just a reminder. Right now we have some of our winter programs going on. Tonight the junior high is performing, and then we have some Monday and Tuesday. Welcome the community out to come and listen to our young talented artists and their efforts.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come and speak to you tonight. My name is Tyler Owens. I'm the president of the Group Red Robotics program.
I'm Tiffany McKinley. I'm the vice president.
I'm Gilbert Soko. I'm the head programmer. Through your generosity, we have been able to transform the old bus barn into a facility that provides STEM education to members of the community. For example, we were able to transform one of the rooms in the facility into a computer lab in which students are able to learn conventional skills such as drafting and CADing. Apart from that room, we also have the main build shop in which the junior varsity and the varsity teams use as their primary workshop for working on projects STEM projects.
And really quickly, we have a couple of handouts so you can actually see our achievements over the years, as well as pictures on the back of our building.
So, from last year, our robotics facility we actually started holding our first CTE robotics classes in the building. We started with one team from our class with 50 students, and today we have 4 teams with 30 students. Last year, our team placed first in state and placed 27th in our world tournament out of 2,000 teams competing. We also started our middle school and elementary teams last year. Our elementary team had 1 team last year, and now we have 4 with a total of 30 students. We actually have a competition for them Saturday,
Where's the competition?
Bright River.
Okay, so as you can see, our program has grown tremendously since we began in 2017. And now we would like for you all to come and experience our progress firsthand. We will be hosting a kickoff season or a kickoff event to begin our new varsity season on January 8th, 2022. In this event, our organization, First Robotics, will reveal our competition and start our season, which is a 7-week build season that we can build our competition robot and then compete in Flagstaff. So as part of this event, we will be providing lunch as well as refreshments throughout the event. And we would also like your input in designing our robot once we see the competition, and you'll have the chance to see our building and the progress we've made.
Thank you.
And there's information on the second flyer about dates and times, and you're more than welcome to bring your families and anyone else you would like to invite. It should be a fun event, and we hope to see you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Looking
for
forward to
letting
it.
us come speak to you. There.
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming.
Are there any questions?
Any questions, John?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brandy, can you send a reminder?
Okay. Well, have a good evening.
Thank you, you
Thank you
too.
for
Have a
coming.
great
It's
holiday.
January 8th, John.
I'll send it to him.
Anything else in here?
Noon. John asked what time the event was. It's at
Because
noon.
it's 9:30 to noon.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, 9:30 to noon. Thought I got you there at the end.
You have anything else?
No, that's my report, ma'am.
Okay, item 3.3, discussion and approval of board subcommittee for K-5 behavioral health. We had talked about this a couple meetings ago. So if this gets approved, we would like the committee to be led by our K-5 counselors and to include gen ed teachers, special ed teachers, and instructional coaches from each location, each of our 3 campuses, and with 3 primary goals. 1, to identify primary mental behavioral health needs of our K-5 students. 2, identify the resources needed to meet those students, such as staff, space, equipment, training, programs, most pressing needs too. 3rd, investigate the correlation between the achievement gap and behaviors. How are significant behaviors affecting learning in the classroom? So if this gets approved, we'd like you guys they can decide when they want to meet, but come back to us the beginning of March so we can have a study session with the committee. Anything to add?
Just a reminder, I know we've said it and you guys have all talked about it before. This would be, the way I understand it, a committee of the board. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Which would mean that the meetings would be agendized. They would be public meetings and they would be posted. And they would be have their meetings, their minutes would be published. And then they would have the specific things that you outlined and then a timeline in which they wanted you to, or you want them to report, which you just.
I really like it. I think we should do it.
I agree.
I'll motion to approve the board subcommittee for K-5 behavioral health.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? John, make a motion.
John, did you say yes? Yes, you voted yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thanks, you guys. Item 3.4, discussion and of approval of moving forward with the district office construction. Mr. Helsley.
Madam President, we showed some conceptual drawings before and had some other conversations. I went back to the architect with those suggestions. We've reviewed them. One of them was considering a two-story space. Because of code and the occupancy, that would require an elevator. And just the parts for the elevator would increase the cost $50,000, which is outside of the scope of the insurance. So that would be additional to what we would pay. That's not including the construction and everything else. The architect said just the elevator. So he would suggest, he actually did suggest that we remain on a single level. There's no cost effectiveness of going up. There's no benefit for that unless you just really are sold on having a two-story building. And so when we look at there were three options that he put in place there. One thing that was noted by the board last time is maybe the desire to have some doors in some of those floor-to-ceiling rooms where there wasn't any doors. They were more like just cubicle workspaces. So they adjusted it. The only difference between option 1 and option 2 is that there was some reconfiguration and adding a little bit of a storage space there. He did that on, I can't remember which one. Is that A1 or A2.1? Sorry. And then A2, he just added the doors and without additional space, but that you can see how that's separated there. So what we would be looking at is if you add the additional board/meeting room there, that additional square footage would fall under the district responsibility. So as you're looking at that plan, anything from the meeting room, the right-hand side of the plan, over into the main office space is covered through the insurance. That meeting space is the only thing that's not covered through the insurance. With the additional square footage, there is code responsibility that we would have to bring some things up to code because the square footage changes, the parking requirements change. So he said it's about 26 additional spaces that have to be added because of the meeting room and other ADA compliant spaces. Yeah, there's enough room for that. So in the dirt area, and it can't just be the dirt parking lot, he'd have to put in for pavement for those 26 spaces, as well as improvement on the spaces in the front of the building that were there. And then there's some landscape requirements that are just general landscape requirements. So that would bring, he estimated a very high estimation of what the cost would be to move forward with the building as it is here, because he didn't have the scope of what the engineering would be to put the parking lot in the drainage. He doesn't know if he can run the drainage from the parking lot into the city drainage that's to the east, or if he has to keep it on our property. And so there were some factors he didn't know that might add cost. So he wanted to estimate high. And so he estimated the cost of the addition at about $400,000, and then the cost of the engineering for the parking and the drainage and other things at about an additional $100,000. He said that $500,000 would be a very, very conservative and top-end number to do the district office the way that it is, the way it's proposed here. I just wanted to point out, I got the letter from the insurance company, and it just outlines, hopefully that came up in your thing, it outlines that in section, excuse me, it's at the end of the document there, section 18.6, that you have to begin construction within 1 year of the loss and complete construction within 2 years of the loss. So our loss was in February. Should we approve moving forward with the scope or whatever scope that is, our architect could have the construction documents done by the end of December. And since the insurance company is the procurement agency, they would mobilize their construction companies that they work with, and we could meet.
So which version are you leaning towards, the A2 or the A1?
Well, the one with the little additional storage space seems to be a better use, because you notice in the second one, that's just vacant space there and it's kind of awkward. Maybe you put a copy machine there. I don't know what you put in that space. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't. And so in the second one?
The point
The only
one,
difference is on this one, there's nothing there. On this one, there's a storage space. That's the main difference.
Got
Storage
it.
space or
Okay.
yeah, so
awkward, nothing.
whenever we talk about houses or buildings or whatever, storage is always a question. So if you're going to leave it vacant versus having a storage, maybe you lean in that.
And it looks like that wouldn't be a structural change. That would be something that would happen pretty late in the construction process, whether or not that storage goes in or not.
All the components on the interior, I asked them that all the components need to be in the construction document. So
Okay.
when they're drafting this by December 30th, when they have it complete, everything the way that we want it would have to be in there.
Chad, who are you, all the offices, what personnel are we anticipating to be in those offices?
Well, we had talked about bringing the two executive directors over. Right now, that it may not be feasible to bring over the special ed or the student services department because of the amount of files and things that they have that they house in their rooms there. But we would bring over the department that is ADM and federal programs, the grants
And
piece.
that's Jamie.
That's Jamie.
Okay.
And then looking to have Brian, the executive director of K-12 academics and achievement over there. So that would be a couple of those office spaces there. And then just our office personnel that's currently in there. So there's enough space as it's laid out. That would bring us up to code compliance. The exterior, as you note, is it's a brick veneer. It's actually not a real brick. What it is it's a material that they make that looks and feels like a brick, but it's insulated on the inside, and it is a veneer type thing, but it has a different R value than just brick, and it lasts a lot longer over time, and it's not porous like brick
It's
is.
warmer probably too than a
A
natural
brick has to be either painted or sealed pretty regularly, and this material doesn't have to.
Right.
And so it would have that, and then it would have a colored stucco on the second half of it. So that I've used that in other applications. I've seen it used, and it actually, you pick your color, and then the color doesn't fade over time, and it doesn't have to be repainted because it's actually pigmented into the stucco.
It's color lock.
So,
Great.
and then just the commercial shingles on top.
I think it looks good.
Any,
So we're wanting to do A 2.1, correct?
the one with the storage there?
Yes.
I believe that might
A
be the most.
2.1, yeah. Okay. Well, are we ready to make a motion? All right, are you fine? Okay. I will make a motion to approve A 2.1 as our new district office and their construction plans.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? John, motion?
Oh, I gotta pull him back up. Hold on. John? Yes.
We
Thumbs
forgot
up.
about John.
All right, motion passes.
I was looking at the agenda, not John.
Item 3.5, call to the audience. Anything? Item 3.6, future board agenda items. Anybody? John, have anything?
Anything for future board agendas, John? No.
Nope. Okay. Item 4.1, approval of tutoring position for AICM. Mr. Hosley.
As you may or may not be familiar with, inside of a school district, if there are private schools within a public school district boundaries that receives title money, those private schools can qualify for a proportionate share of those federal dollars. And it's based on their amount of free and reduced lunch population also. We have a couple of private schools within our boundaries. Sometimes they will say, yeah, we would love our proportionate share. Sometimes they say, no, thank you. A lot of that has to do with income disclosure. Some private schools, their constituents don't care to have income disclosure, right? So it really depends on the year and depends on the school. And there's been different times when because they get that amount of money, then they can decide how they're going to spend it. So in the past, the American Indian Christian Mission has taken their proportionate share, and sometimes they've used it to buy computers because they needed some computers, or they've used it to buy other curricular or other things. This year, they felt like they would like to use that their proportionate share to help support some tutoring services. As you can imagine, they're a very small school, and they have needs just like us as far as staffing. So what they've asked of Jamie is if we could provide an opportunity for someone on our staff to work off contract time to do the tutoring for some of their students. And they would use their proportionate share to pay those off contract teachers. So this would be something that would be after 3:30 in the afternoon where they can come in and do some tutoring for those students there. So Jamie has presented that for the board this evening for your consideration. You can see the outline of that we would put that out to our staff and invite those who are interested to express their interest. And then we will select the staff member that meets the need of, along with the American Indian Christian Mission, will participate in that, selecting the staff that best fits their need, and then they will be compensated at contracted hours there at $25 per hour for up to 70 hours from January to May. So that's for your consideration this evening.
I'll make motion to approve the tutoring position for AICM as presented.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.1, approval of revised positions. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, members of the board, last month we explored the idea with you of having a district executive chef slash director, and inside this agenda item you see the job description, kind of outlining this so that you can distinguish between the executive chef obviously is over the department as if like a director, but the main focus is on recipe and personnel, whereas the change in title that we would be recommending for the position that Ginger currently holds would be assistant director, who takes care of all the state reporting, the mandated collecting of numbers and that sort of into the business side of the house. And so really distinguishing the two pieces there. Ginger and Vanessa have sat down and went through these qualifications and kind of outlining what those two positions would look like in concert. And in front of you is their recommendation for this position moving forward. Like we said, it's been done in other districts, in our neighboring district very successfully. We're hopeful that we can find this is one of the avenues, and we would prefer this avenue than the others that we've been exploring. But should we not find someone who qualifies in this realm, then we'd have to look at option B or C. For your consideration this evening, Madam President.
And so this is a Director 1 position?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve the revised position as presented?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.2, approval of new hires, renewals, and transfers. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, on that last agenda item, Mr. Larson did vote yes. Did you say item 5.2? Yes. Yeah. 5.2. For your consideration this evening, new hires in transportation. Anthony Scarano, bus driver, 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. And you see that there. Kimberly Dooley, excuse me, I just want to note something. We've been trying tirelessly to find solutions to busing situations. Mr. West has been driving almost every morning, every afternoon. We were able to find another bus driver in Anthony. We're very grateful for him being on board now. And then Kimberly did work for us. She was one that went to another transit department locally, and we reached out to her because she was working 3 days a week. And this is one of those things where we're trying to, we have these routes available. Could you do one, or could you do two? Could you do 2 days or 1 day? And so in the time of shortage, we're really looking for this. And as we visited with her, there may be an opportunity for people that she knows that could fill some other single routes or double routes throughout the week. And so this might be a little bit of a movement in that direction. So also for your consideration, there's Drew Bjornson, computer lab at the high school, Jen Spradlin, that's a high school para, Casey Zinicola at the junior high, and Jessica Allman at Nicholas Homestead. Also student teaching, Kelsey Zampidri and Hal Frost, 5th grade classroom, and then Savannah May, student teaching at Linden Elementary with Ava Franco in 2nd grade during the 2nd semester, for your consideration.
I'd like to motion that we approve the new hire student teaching renewals and transfers. And I wanted to just express happiness that Kelsey is going to be student teaching. And I know that we had one of our teachers at the Nicholas Homestead, Mr. Yeager, who just received his certificate and his degree. So I'm glad to see all this. Thank you.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. John, okay with it?
Yes.
Okay. Item 5.3, approval of stipends, volunteers, and event workers. Mr. Halsey.
Madam President, there are a number of those for your review. They are in the board docs here, but I'll read a couple here. Chad Carpenter and Jerry Walker as far as volunteers for boys basketball. And then Monty Maxwell is the high school head track coach, track and field coach, junior high boys basketball head coaches, Hal Frost and Jacob Fultz. Also, there is a request in here for extra duty stipends for Dr. Abel. And that talks about the Ed Rising state competition. That stipend request is at $500. 301 stipends are attached to this item, as well as event workers Amberlynn Power, Tyler Yeager, and Sarah Watkins. There is a recommendation in here for the music program, the request for a new stipend structure, the outline of which is inside this agenda item, but it would be a drama director at $35.92, assistant director, vocal coach at $21.22, choreographer at $9.80, and pit director at $9.80. And the way that was broke down was out board. Did you have any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Mr. Housley, I've been to a few of the music programs, and it seems like we don't have an individual to man the lighting and the sound. Are we worried about this proposal that we're not gonna, what are we doing for the end of the year production, or for the end of the calendar year, but then also the rest of the school year productions for people, the individual to kind of run the lighting and the microphones and all that kind of stuff?
We do have an individual that we use, and we use him through contracted services. He did the Feast of Carols.
Okay, yeah.
And he has done he did the last concert that Cynthia did. And he is will continue to do the productions that are required. When we broke this out, we sat down and figured out what was budgeted for those services, and then outlined, Cynthia and Ben outlined what performances would require such a position, and how much money that would require, and then what was left over is how we determined what the stipend amounts were for those additional positions.
So we're not looking at stipending somebody for those things. We're just going to continue to contract with an individual.
Yeah. Mhm. That is this individual's preferred way of doing it all.
Oh, really?
I wanted to thank Mr. Marchant for your creative financing and coming up with this. And yeah, it was a great structure the way you did this. So thank you. And with that, I will move to approve the stipends, volunteers, and event workers as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 5.4, approval of contract work assignment revisions. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, members of the board, according to Arizona state statute, each year at this time, we will be looking at the consideration of increase to minimum wage. That is as written in statute, it's a cost of living increase. This year, cost of living was excessive. Not cost of the inflation increase was excessive. It was over 5%. And so that's reflected out in the increase in minimum wage. And so before you is the consideration of those adjustments, as well as some additional transfers, work assignments within our paraprofessionals, food service, and other things, those adjustments to be made. But the minimum wage will be moving in January from $12.15 to $12.80 an hour. And that's effective January 1st. So these work agreements revisions are for your.
A motion to approve the contract work assignment revisions as presented.
I'll second it, but I have a question also. So I noticed on the first item, we have the custodian at Whipple Ranch at $15.59, and then on the second document, it says $12.80. So will $15.59 be his rate of
No,
pay?
it says the salary range is minimum wage to $15.59. That's the range.
Okay, so
That's the range of the position.
okay, I just didn't want him getting a reduced rate,
No,
so
that's
that
the
will
range
not
of the
happen.
position.
Okay, very good, thank you. That was my only question.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6.1, approval to rescind and nullify current and past policies. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, as bringing this process to full circle, one of the things as you do a full board book review is you nullify all standing policies, and then you reapprove all policies with the adjustments. In the documents that are inside 6.2, you'll notice there are some that are lined out that were changed because statutes changed, or the statutes were no longer applicable, or they remained unchanged, or they were our policies not copywritten by ASBA. So those are all there for your consideration. But 6.1 is to rescind and nullify all current and past policies. The last adoption, which was in 2000.
Want to hang on to these?
Well, no, but I don't see where the changes, what the actual changes were. Am I missing something, or are we going to review that?
These are, I think those documents called out those changes so that you could go to the documents and see where those are.
Oh, so we aren't going to see what actually the changes are. Are they in bold or?
You could see if you went to the policy what the changes would be, but for instance, the regulations and exhibits in the, let me see, let me go back to the, in the regulations and exhibits in the, let me see, let me go back to the, in the regulations and exhibits 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 in the regula Let me pull up the right tab. In the regulations and exhibits submitted to the district via policy bridge, that one right there, the very top one, the 72 kb there, you'll notice under there it says these presented to the governing board, but governing board approval is not required to make those changes. Those are just, there's 35 documents that are in there. Those were just updated. They were moved or removed. If you go to the next one, there were 52 policies. These policies submitted to the district for consideration, update, to add, to remove, or to retain. Changes are taken. These changes come to the governing board, but these are all the district mission and belief, oath of office, those things that are just general policies. Then you go to the very last one. There were 70 documents. The listed policies that are listed there, regulations and exhibits, are excluded from the district manual. The ones that are in the brackets, these policies, regulations, and exhibits reviewed, but to be retained as they are. So 70 of them had no changes. 70 of them. And just so you know, that any changes that were made were just, we didn't have to change any of them substantially. They were just cosmetic and wordsmith. Most of them were up to date, unless they were just out of compliance with the legal statute.
Well, I know I have not had time to go through those 35 documents that are in the first batch. I don't know if anybody else has gone through all these. And does anybody want to take the time to go through these and see what the changes are, or do we want to just approve it as is? And
There was no major changes. The ASBA went through it with, we can't nullify him if you don't want to adopt him, Kelly.
What you asked me to do is to sit down with ASBA and go through and make sure that they were in compliance with the law and the statute, and where we were, it wasn't substantiated changes to the policy. It was just reviewing to make sure they were in compliance, and it was still our process and procedure. That's what happened. Nothing to the content of the policy or the nature of the policy, because you would have to vote on that. You would have to vote specifically to make that change. So.
So I motion to approve to rescind and nullify all current and past policies.
John is second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Nay. I think I would want to take the time to go through. In the past, when we've done this, we've actually had like each policy what the actual changes were, and that we would know. I have a hard time just blindly approving something without actually knowing, even if it is just verbiage or just, a may to a shall or a shall to a may. I actually would like to know what those changes are. That is why I voted nay.
So we already approved this one, then do we have to retract it? Or do we just go ahead and approve 6.2?
Depends what the vote is.
It was 3-2. John.
Yeah, so then the motion.
Okay. Item 6.2, approval to adopt the policy manual.
I motion to approve to adopt the policy manual because we have to have something.
John, second?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
Yes.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Item 7.1, approval of proposal submitted and response to solicitation quotes for interested parties for naming rights to the high school gymnasium. Mr. Hosley.
Madam President, members of the board, we had some interested parties approach us about the possibility of through sponsorship, naming facilities, for instance, the football field, the basketball court. And as a result of that, we put out a solicit for quotes for bids for interested parties for naming rights. As far as naming rights are concerned, that's sponsorship naming rights. That doesn't prohibit the board from naming it for a coach that, or whatever, if you wanted to in the future. Interested parties had to submit their proposals by November 22nd. That was a 10-day window that they had an opportunity. It was advertised on our website. And so we do have a proposal that's in before you this evening, and the agreement is part of that, which would include the naming of the gymnasium to Hatch Toyota Arena, the sponsorship agreement for the amount of $75,000. We also have in the works some others that are interested in annual advertising things. For instance, the pads on the protective pads on the wall in the gym advertise the local law firm, and they're working through an agreement on what that annual cost of that advertisement would look like. So there is interest as we've gone through this. There's interest for naming on the rights to the football field. What this would mean is that when we publish a schedule and it shows the arena, instead of saying Cougar basketball court or Cougar Arena, it would say Hatch Toyota Arena. And that would be what we would do if we published a brochure with basketball stuff on it. It would have there'd be a small, as far as the court's concerned, a small description of their business. Oh goodness, I just lost the word. Logo, yes. They would say Hatch Toyota Arena on one side of the floor, and then on the other side of the floor, it would say that.
Like on the floor?
Mm-hmm. Which should the agreement go away or should it expire, that can be sanded out, and the next answer could be okay, if they so wanted to. And then that would also include the purchasing of all the inside that 75,000. That would help to purchase all of the scoreboards inside the arena, which right now is valued at about $68,000.
So all the, like in ensuing years or future years, that money will go towards the athletic department, or where will it go?
The desire from Hatch Toyota is to pay that all in one lump. And then that
Every year?
No, just 1 year. It would be 1 year, one time 70.
Okay, and how long will the agreement
The
last
term
for?
of the agreement is until 2036. And they would have first right of refusals after January 31st, 2026 or 2036.
And what's the $75,000 going to be spent on?
Right now, that all the scoreboards, including the center court scoreboard, has to be replaced. So that value is about $68,000 right now. They're looking at digital scoreboards and things like that, and that's been in part of the discussion. So they know that that's what it's going to be.
Is there any potential issue in the future if, 2036 is a ways away, if the arena needs some sort of upkeep that we don't really have the funds to spend on, and then the sponsor is upset with the state of the arena, is there anything in here that says what will happen if something like that were to occur?
They're in the contract itself, it doesn't specifically call it that. It does, there are opportunities for both parties to, you know, to separate it at times and identify those pieces.
So it's not going to be some sort of added pressure on us to maintain it to a higher level than we would have to otherwise?
It's already good faith since we haven't had a gym for 3 years.
Sorry,
Before that
Brandon.
anyone will ever see the scoreboard. Yeah.
Barring another flood, we will be okay. No, yeah.
Dollars a year.
I don't think there's any concern with that.
So that comes out to $5,000 per year for 15 years, right? Do you think that's enough?
That's about what we would get normally for a similar type. We referred it to what we had with the scoreboard on the football stadium, about where
Or
that was. When we were looking at mats, like the pads, the protective pads, we're looking at about between $300 and $3,500 per year for the mats that are all the way around the thing. So this is a little bit of uncharted territory as far as you know, not a lot of businesses want to sponsor local high school arenas. Fortunately, we have a lot of support in our community, so this is something that there's some interest in. And I know that it started out a little bit lower than that, and through conversation and the generosity of the Hatch Motor Company, then we got to the point where we are now. So.
And then if we're going to do the pads, you'll be bringing that sponsorship agreement at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did attorneys look at this and
Yes,
did
ma'am.
they review it? Oh, okay.
Both our attorney and the
And his?
and Toyota Corporation.
Okay, great. Well, I do think it's a generous offer. And the fact that we'll get it in a lump sum so we can take care of our immediate needs is nice also. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal submitted and solicitation quotes as presented.
Have a second?
I'll second.
On favor? Aye.
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 John votes no.
Votes no. Okay, motion passes. Item 8.1 through 8.9 consent agenda. Are you doing it tonight? Mrs.
Yep.
Beecroft isn't here.
For your consideration, the ratification of expense vouchers, payroll vouchers, overnight and out-of-state travel, resignations, retirements, and terminations, PTSO and Booster Club financials, tax credit and activity accounts, district fundraisers, governing board minutes from the regular governing board meeting in November 18 of 2021, and the approval of our donations are all in there. And if you like to read them, Mr. Clark, you can, or I will just go ahead and read them. It doesn't matter.
Sure, I'll read them. Looks like Unisource Gas Incorporated donated $3,000 to the high school STEM club. Unisource Gas donated $2,500 to the Robotics Club. Donors Choose donated to Mrs. Shabak's classroom to purchase items to support sensory regulation to enhance the classroom experience for her students. And the Community Fast donated $5,000 to the Nicholas Homestead Elementary PTSO. So I'd like to thank all of our sponsors and those people who donate generously to our district.
And I want to just recognize too that the community fast checks have just gone out, so all of our schools actually were beneficiaries. Those amounts just weren't captured in this board meeting, but we do appreciate the generous offers of all of our donors, including those who give large and small donations. It doesn't matter. It all benefits the kids, and it's wonderful to have. So for your consideration, the consent agenda this evening.
I'll make motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
On favor?
Aye.
John votes yes.
Motion passes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
On favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, everybody.
Agenda passing.